Good evening, guys and girls, and welcome to this first session of tonight's BLE Tech Talks. We are going to talk a little bit about integration, and we are going to talk about one of the leading products in the market for integration, which is Oracle Integration Cloud. And then I'm going to present a small business case to you as well, which my colleagues Link and Viraj have created. So this is basically what we are going to talk about today. Now, diving right deep into integration, for example, when you start discussing a use case with a customer, or when you start a new project, the focus is most of the time on the bigger applications like SAP, like Oracle, etc., etc. But what sometimes we forget to account for is the amount of integration that is going to impact your business IT timelines. So according to a recent study, it is integration which actually takes about 50% of the time and cost of any IT project. And the typical reason for why that is because today's enterprise IT landscapes are so complex that integration between different things like REST, XML, JSON, SOAP, etc., it takes a lot of time. So that's why it's really important to also think about integration from the real starting of a project rather than thinking about it as a second stage or a third stage of the IT project. So that's the real reason why we are diving today into integration, and we are going to show you one of the leading integration products in the market, that is Oracle Integration Cloud. So this is basically what Integration Cloud can do. So we are going to talk about all these capabilities. So on the left side here, you see all the possibilities which are possible with this product. So you can develop mobile use cases, chatbot use cases, blockchain, etc., etc. And then these are the real components of the Oracle Integration Cloud, and these are the pre-built connectors, and these are the cloud services that Oracle Integration Cloud can work well with. So let's go through everything one by one. So these are the four capabilities of OIC. So the first one is, of course, application integration. So for example, you have your, let's say, Sales Cloud in the cloud, and then you have to integrate it with something on premise. So you are typically going to use this application integration capability of OIC to make that happen. Then secondly, we got process. So a lot of times in enterprise IT, there are many processes which need some human task. For example, somebody has to approve, decline, etc., etc. So process automation capability of OIC is used for such use cases. And then you have Visual Builder, which is basically a very low-code tool which is used to make quick web and mobile apps for users. And then you have Insights, which is basically used to give you a view into how your data is being used on OIC. For example, how many number of requests have succeeded, failed, etc., etc. So these are the four main components of OIC. And then let's talk a bit about pre-built connectivity. And the most important part of pre-built connectivity is this pre-built adapters. So this is also one of the main differentiators of OIC from the other competitors in the market. So we have over 100 of these pre-built connecting adapters, which can be used to connect to applications like SAP, etc., etc., but also to, let's say, social media like LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. So these adapters can lead to very interesting use cases sometimes. For example, we did a POC a while back where we connected a company's HR system with LinkedIn. So whenever there was a vacancy in the company's HR system, it was automatically published on LinkedIn. And then all the changes in the HR system were automatically flowing to LinkedIn. So you didn't have to do anything on LinkedIn anymore. So these are the kind of modern social media use cases that you can also build with the OIC. And then you come to the cloud services. So of course, OIC runs on cloud, and it integrates very well with all these capabilities. For example, API, gateway, so you can use OIC to expose your data through API gateway to your business partners, etc., etc. And then these are all the various cloud services to which OIC can connect with. And then typically in an enterprise landscape, you have all three kind of deployments. So OIC can also take care very well of all three kind of deployments. Let's go forward now and let's talk a little bit about what kind of use cases we normally see while we are implementing OIC. So what we normally see is that when a company starts using OIC, the first type of use case is typically application to application integration. So an example of application to application integration is the example that I gave to connect a company's HR system with social media, for example. And then you can also have use cases, for example, like connecting Salesforce to an on-premise system for your leads and sales, etc., etc. And you can, of course, use this large library of pre-built adapters for that. So application to application is typically the first type of use case that we see. Then going to the second type of use case. So once, let's say, companies are a little bit comfortable with first type of use cases, then they also dive a little bit into building their web and mobile apps with OIC. And so it can develop both mobile and web apps, of course, like we talked about. And then thirdly, OIC can also connect to advanced, let's say, tools like chatbots, etc. So an example of this can be, let's say, that your company's HR system is on premise. So, for example, employees' vacations, leaves, etc., etc. And then rather than going through a clunky, let's say, web app, the employees can just use this chatbot to ask it about their leaves, vacations, etc., etc. So these are basically the three kind of use cases that we see with the OIC. Now, going forward, let's talk a bit about the market and competitors. So, of course, integration is a big field, and OIC has quite a few competitors like MuleSoft, Dell Boomi, etc., etc. But for the last 4 years, Oracle has held its position as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Enterprise Integration Platform as a Service. So it has held its own very well in the iPaaS space, and with it having around 200 customers in Netherlands itself, it is for sure gaining a lot of traction within the market, and we do expect it to grow. So it seems like Oracle Cloud and Oracle Integration Cloud both is on a very good growing path. Now let's go forward and let me introduce the business use case to you, which we are going to show you. So to recap, this is the business use case that we implemented a technical solution for. I'm going to introduce the business use case, and my colleagues Ling and Viraj are going to show you the technical design and the technical implementation of this. So the use case we have is actually quite simple. So we have a company which is actually a furniture selling company, and it has two type of, let's say, buildings. One is the warehouse where all their stock is stored, and second is the stores where a customer can come in. He can choose what he wants to buy: tables, chairs, sofas, whatever, and they can buy it from these stores. So now the inventory management is quite important here, because whatever is reflected in stores as something that can be sold should actually be in the storehouse as well. So right now the inventory management is being done manually. So what happens is that every night warehouse employee, he looks through all the things that are in store, and he uploads this Excel file to an SFTP location. And every morning, the payment processor or the sales system of the stores, it picks up that Excel file and uploads that data into the stores. Now, as you can imagine, this is a very manual process, which can lead to a lot of faults. So, for example, a customer can see something in the store that he likes and want to buy, but because the person doing the inventory management in the warehouse forgot to mention that sofa or chair in his, let's say, list, that's why the store is not able to sell it, because it is not in its sales. So to go around this problem, the company also has an inventory validator team, which actually looks at this Excel file placed in this SFTP location, and it validates every row of that inventory. So for example, maybe the person who is creating the list has said that a table can have 10 legs, or a chair can have 3 legs, etc., etc. So the only job of this inventory validator team is to correct such mistakes. Now, so this is an immediate business problem that the store wants to solve. It wants to use OIC to actually do its inventory management in a nicer way without any mistakes, etc., so that it does not lose sales towards customers. And the second use case that the company has is that it also wants to sell its furniture through other third-party websites like bold.com, for example, and not just through its stores. Thus, it can open a new line of sales. So it also wants to expose its warehouse material through APIs, so that the external partner stores like bold.com can also sell it on their websites. So this is the simple and interesting use case we have for you. And now my colleague Ling is going to show you the technical design and how she and Viraj were able to implement it in OIC.